The definition of self-image is the idea one has of one's abilities, appearance, and personality. That's going to be able to determine where you end up in life. Self-image is based on what you tell yourself you're going to do and then what you follow through with that. You tell yourself you're going to do that stuff and then you don't do it. That actually lowers your self-image every single time.
You set expectations for yourself because you told yourself that you were going to, but because you didn't, your brain said that you didn't work hard enough. That hard work, that grit is what's going to shape you, shape your self-image in the process. Not going to be the results. No.
Welcome back to the Imperfect Walk.
Yes, glad to have you. I'm excited to talk about this topic. It is a continuation of the last episode. So if you haven't watched it, go back and watch that one. And as we continue this series.
Yeah, this one is, we mentioned last time there's going to be a 3 parts. This one's part 2. It's just about self-image, and I'm just touching a little bit of getting out of postpartum depression, but mainly focusing on self-image and how to build that and what that is. And yeah, because I think it's such an important thing in every aspect of life. Like if you're applying for jobs, it's important you have a good self-image. If you're building relationships, if you're building your career, if you're building a business, you want to have a high self-image, in my opinion.
Absolutely. You definitely gonna always need a high self-image because how you view yourself is how you ultimately treat yourself, if that makes sense, is that's how you pretty much put yourself in a standard. So that's you're gonna accept certain things for yourself in terms of where your self-image is at. So if your self-image is not too high, the things that you will let you just tolerate almost everything, but not set specific boundaries for yourself. So that's why it's always important to have a good self image, and especially that specific season of life that she's going to be touching on, that's when your self image is normally at its lowest, one of its lowest. So yeah, I'm excited to dive more deep into it.
Yeah, the definition of self-image is the idea one has of one's abilities, appearance, and personality. So it's literally who you believe you are, and that's going to reflect in everything, how you speak, your body language, how you carry yourself, and then in turn, that's going to be able to determine almost where you end up in life, right? Like if you're running a business and you have a low self-image, you're probably not going to get very far. And if you are in a job, you're probably not going to get the promotion. Because if your self-image is low, you don't actually believe in yourself. You don't actually see yourself worthy of achieving and continuing to do the next thing, right? Okay, so in your words, what has been the biggest factor growing your self-image?
Mm. Honestly, that's a great question. I think the biggest thing for me was surroundings, environment. I think it's going around people who are a lot of people who had high self image really played a big role. And I don't know, I decided instilled in me confidence and being able to have that self image. Why did you do that?
I'm just drinking a drink.
That's a great question. That's a great question. And I think for me, and honestly, long story short, if I were to keep it to one thing, it would be my surroundings, my environment. Just having the right people around me at all times. I was able to develop that over time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's wrong with you?
You keep laughing. What about like the influence of other people grew your self-image? Because self-image is what you perceive of yourself, right? Like your abilities. So what about that grew your
I think
self-image?
just having like role models, if that
Yeah.
makes sense, right? And it was people who I looked up to, like my parents, friends, people who that I was always around. I think is because I had a sense of independence as a child growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to develop a lot of those things where I was not relying on people. I was reliant on my own abilities, my own self a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times. So I would do certain things on about I was able to entertain myself. And because I was able to do that, if I never had to worry about other people liking me and never had to worry about playing with anyone else, stuff like that. So, because I knew I can get friends if I wanted to.
Right, but how did your self-image tie into the community that you just mentioned?
So, how did that help me grow my self image? Everyone around me, they all had pretty high, much high self image.
Mm-hmm.
And because I had that ability to be independent very often, I think that played a role in terms of when I was in those groups, I was able to take the things that I loved and push the things that I didn't really like. So if some people have certain things about them that I didn't really like, I didn't take that. And the people who I see that have a lot of fruit on the tree, if that makes sense. Like a lot of people who have that good energy about them. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, what makes this person so? Why do I like this person?
Yeah.
And just seeing how they carry themselves, I was like, okay, I see why they're so confident. They have this. This is how I want to make myself. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how that environment was able to shape that. I was happy that I was able to be a part of a great environment because if I was a part of a hostile environment, maybe my self image would not be as high. Or if I was bullied a lot, if I was bullied a lot as a kid, my self image probably wouldn't have been as high. Because why? If somebody's been called names all their life growing up, if somebody's been teased about something specific about them, like it's gonna be harder for you to grow. It's gonna be harder for you to grow a self image, a strong self image. But because I never had that, I had a more supportive group, a more supportive environment where
Mhm.
I grew up. I think that's what played a role in it. I've been teased, I've been messed with. I don't know if I would like say it's been bullied, but people used to call me like tell me I was very skinny. So I had a lot of self conscious around that, but I
Mhm.
never let that describe me. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? I never let that be my factor in my life. Like I still had things. Sometimes I think about it. I'm like, man, like I look in the mirror and stuff like, but I never let
Yeah.
that play too much of an impact on me.
Right.
It's because I always knew that I had higher purpose.
Right.
So yeah,
I
that's
love that. I think for me growing up, I at some points didn't have a high self-image, but then I did for a while. And I don't think it was until after pregnancy that my self-image dropped a lot. And that's why I just slightly wanted to touch into postpartum depression for the moms and the women out there who have experienced that and you have been through that and you maybe in that period right now because that ties into your self-image like being in that low spot where you might have depression or whatever you're probably going to have a really low self-image as well and that's where I found myself and so I wanted to just touch on that briefly because I feel like it ties in together a little bit and so I just want to recognize as well as everyone's struggles is different with postpartum depression. And also, like my situation may not be your situation, and everyone has different circumstances, and a lot of it is hormonal. So that's a different thing. But for me, when I knew I had postpartum depression was when you asked me something about what makes you happy. And I didn't have an answer for it at the time. I think I said our son, that's the only thing that was making me happy at the time. I didn't have drive. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't think I could do anything. I had like no purpose at that point. And I think that's when I realized, like, okay, something else is going on here because that's not really me. That's not really who I was, at least before kids. And also the perspective of just because you are in that spot after kids doesn't mean that you're never going to get back who you were before kids and not necessarily the same person, but maybe someone better, someone more refined and more wise and stuff like that. When I realized those things about postpartum depression and I realized like that's where I was, what I ended up doing is I realized that I had a really low self-image. And I realized that I didn't like anything about myself. I didn't believe in myself in terms of business, in terms of anything really. I didn't believe in myself. And I just started to take it one step at a time, one day at a time, one little piece at a time, and slowly grow that self image. And I think self image, like the main definition from what I've learned and what we've learned, is that self image is based on what you tell yourself you're going to do and then what you follow through with that. And that's what actually builds your self image. Like if you say, I'm going to go to the gym and you don't go to the gym, or, oh, I'm gonna lose 20 pounds and you don't lose 20 pounds. Oh, I'm gonna, I don't know, like start running and you don't start running. Or whatever other, oh, I'm gonna start this new diet in the new year. Whatever people that tell themselves they're gonna do stuff and then they don't do it. It can even be simple things like, oh, I'm gonna do laundry tonight or I'm gonna clean on Sunday, stuff like that. And you tell yourself you're gonna do that stuff and then you don't do it, that actually lowers your self-image every single time because your brain is then tricked into, oh wait, I can't do those things. Like I told myself I was gonna do those things, but then you just let yourself down every single time that you tell yourself you're gonna do it. and you don't end up doing it. You don't end up following through. And that teaches your subconscious mind that your abilities are low and that, your self-image is low. Like who you believe in yourself is actually low. And so we learned that through association and through mentorship. And so it was just about at that point where I was at a low and I had such a low self-image to slowly bring myself up little by little. So it was like reading one page of a book every single day. And that's where I started, and then reading maybe a little bit more, and then adding a couple extra things in to the point where then I could, over time, over several weeks, my self image started to grow. I started to have more energy. I started to believe in myself more, and then I started to want to do more. And then from there, it just kind of grew. And the consistency aspect of it came with it as well, in just having to also remain consistent in the habits. And not every time that you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. Like, there's times where you can't follow through, and that's okay. But creating systems in your life that allow you to do the things and help you do the things that you tell yourself you're going to do is the key. When we're going to talk about systems next episode, right?
Absolutely, yes. So
Yeah.
you triggered a few thought there when you were speaking. So I was
Mhm.
wondering where the gap was going to be.
Yeah.
But the first thing is when you were going through that postpartum depression, what I realized you were doing a little bit was you were changing your identity. You were changing the identity of what you to know. My life only revolves around my son, my kid, my son. And if that he was out the pitch, you didn't know what to do with yourself because I remember one time, like I think I did it out of insensitivity. I would ask you, what do you enjoy doing? Like because I seeing that you were at a low. I'm like, you don't know what to do outside. Like I say, go find something. I say, go do curricular activity. Go do something. And he's like, what? And you're like, what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. What do you like doing? What do you used to do before? And you're like, I don't know. I don't know what to do. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to help you. But I think a lot of times that's just the reality
Hmm.
is you just slowly start to lose your identity. And that's part of the process. But you did a lot of things to help change back that identity back to where it was. And another thought that you triggered is when you said that your self image is saying that you're going to do something, follow through with it. A lot of times, and I've seen you do it too, is you set expectations for yourself. Like you thought that after the first key, you're gonna bounce back right away
Yeah.
because you've seen people do it.
Yeah.
But because you worked hard and you did not, your self image dropped because you told yourself that you were going to, but because you didn't, automatically, as you mentioned,
Pass.
your
Yeah.
brain said that you didn't work hard enough.
That's so good.
But realistically, you did put in the work. It just didn't happen yet. You're
Because I had an expectation of like, oh, I'm going to come back. I'm going to lose my 50 pounds within 6 months, and I'm going to be back to where I was 6 months
And a
before.
lot of people, a lot of women have that. Not
But a
just
lot
men,
don't.
but a lot don't.
Yeah.
But a lot of women experience the same thing where they want that expectation, but they
Hmm.
can't, they don't get it. But they see other people getting it, they're like, man, why can't that be me? And then that way your identity right there is now changing where it's like, man, why can't that not be me? Well, that won't happen for me. And now
Yeah.
you're just changing your self image, change your identity. So now it's actually going to be harder for you. Whereas you're actually having results, but you're not seeing it because it's not relating to the
Hmm.
identity that you reshaped for yourself. So it's like, how do you get back to that? Is understanding, set these expectations, but understand that everybody's journey is different. Is that admire the work that you're doing. That's the
Hmm.
one thing I always told you is to admire the work that you're doing. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the process of the hard work because the hard work and that grit is what's going to shape you, shape your self image in the process. It's not going to be the results. Nobody's really going to care about the results. They care about the work that you put in to get that results. Because here's the thing. If somebody, what sounds better? The person who put in years and years to get to where they are or the person who just snapped right into it? People are going to want to know more from the person
Of
who
course.
worked harder for it. So that's why you got to admire those times. And that's for everyone else who's going through that same struggle is admire the work that you put in, admire where you are. When you look in the mirror and be like, I love you, you're beautiful, but I'm not going to be here forever. And you just keep telling yourself that, like, don't accept where you are, but love where you are. Like, love where you are, don't accept it, and just keep working towards it. Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, God made us in His own image, right? And if you don't love yourself, you're telling God that you don't love His creation. And we gotta love where we are. Sometimes for me, the same thing. I look in the mirror and sometimes I gotta correct myself in terms of where I want to look. Like if I want to look a certain way, hey, dude, go put in the work for it. I can't complain for something I didn't put in the work for. But there's a lot of people putting in work and not seeing those results. Where you're on your way to that breakthrough, you just keep digging. You're on the way to strike gold. You just gotta believe it
Yeah.
and reshape your self image. Because the more you talk negative to yourself, you're pushing yourself back mentally.
Yeah, your self-talk and your inner talk is very important for your
You're straight
too.
up pushing yourself back further from that goal. You're more further away from the goal mentally than physically when
Yeah.
you put yourself in that situation. And you can be very close, but you don't see it because of the words and what you told yourself. So hopefully that helps somebody.
Yeah, I think so far we've covered, like, for self-image is number 1, the promises that you keep to yourself and what
Mhm.
you tell yourself you're gonna do, following through with that. Number 2, the expectations for your journey and your results and how that ties in as well. And then number 3 is your self-talk and how you actually speak to yourself behind closed doors. Yeah, you may have those negative thoughts, but speak life over yourself. The Bible says that your tongue produces life or death and has the power to do so. And so speak positively over yourself, even if it's the hardest thing. And even if your brain doesn't believe it, like your brain doesn't have to believe it necessarily for you to speak it. You just have to be able to speak it, force yourself to speak it, and eventually you'll believe it. So that's kind of how I pulled myself out of postpartum depression. Like I would just do little things by little things and eventually started getting better and then eventually just started growing and it just started getting higher and higher. And when I like continued to believe in myself and it just continued to get better and I continued to get happier, but it just went back to being consistent with the little things that move you forward. Successful habits like reading, adding to your brain, listening to positive things. Yeah, so I am bouncing back for the third kid though. I will bounce back for that one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At the same time,
Maybe I did for the first one. I kind of did for the second one. We're definitely
third time's
bouncing.
a charm.
Third time's a charm. We're definitely bouncing back for that third one.
Sounds confidence.
Third and final one.
Absolutely. But on that topic is one of the biggest thing that really helped. And I'm not going to give away all was the support. I think, but the first kid, me, compared to the second kid, the role that I played, I started taking things more seriously spiritually. I started taking more of a spiritual lead, and I was able to take a lot of mental load off of yourself because at the beginning, you were technically taking care of two kids in a way. Like a lot of stuff wasn't get done, stuff like that. So your
It's a lot of women out there.
your self image, your mind, your life
Yeah.
revolved around taking care of your home, taking care of your kids, aka me and Romario.
Like, how do you focus on yourself?
Like, so how do you focus on yourself when that's your life? When one kid goes to bed, you have to not entertain the next, and then you have to make sure the house is put together.
If anyone's wondering what I'm drinking, this is called kefir, and it's because all of us have been sick for the last several days. We've had the worst stomach flu of our life.
It's interesting. Yeah, we're still here.
We are.
We're still here. We're surviving.
I did have a practical application that I wanted to cover.
Absolutely share that.
Yeah, this is a practical application that you can apply to your life that I think will help you move forward in literally any aspect. In any aspect. It doesn't even matter. Could be your self image, could be success in your business, could be your job, could be success in your marriage, could be your personal talk, losing weight, doesn't even matter. An actual practical application. So, number 1, get real with your feelings, write them down and reflect. Reflection is so important and you have to be real with your feelings. Like, you have to just be honest with yourself. Like, how do you actually feel and why do you feel that way? What's making you feel that way? What's changed? Have you always felt that way? And if not, what makes the difference between you feeling a certain way and you not about a situation? Whatever it is, you fill in the blank, but get real with your feelings around whatever topic it is that you want to change and level up in your life and reflect on it and reflect around your actions and your thoughts around it too. Number 2, find one new thing to do to help you move forward in that aspect. So if that aspect is negative self-talk, for example, and you've already reflected about it and everything, you know where it comes from. So find one new thing to help you move forward in that aspect. So maybe that's you speak negatively over yourself and immediately you correct that by speaking out loud something positive that's the opposite of what you just spoke. So that's an example of something that you could do. Spiritual attacks and prayer. This is incredibly important because this is a realm that's unseen and maybe a lot of people don't believe in it, but it is so real and spiritual attacks are real. So prayer is so important and just even if it's a 2-minute prayer or a 2-second prayer and just praying something, but if you can, get down on your knees and really get into that prayer when you have the ability to about that certain aspect that you're trying to tackle here and you're trying to level up and just speak against the enemy's attacks because that's ultimately what's happening as well. The next thing is change in habits. So change what you consume, your association, and most importantly, your words. So, whatever the topic is that you are trying to change your association. Maybe that means that you don't hang out with the same friends, but that could be a good thing, right? Because ultimately you're a product of your association and you're the average of your five closest friends. So if your five closest friends are not accomplishing much in life and not really going anywhere, and maybe they're all in debt, maybe they have poor spending habits, maybe whatever it could be, not saying that all of those are bad. I mean, to each their own. But if you do want success in life and you do want to be different than those friends, you're going to have to stop associating yourself with those friends. If all of your friends are incredibly negative, you're going to be negative. That's just human nature. You're going to get attributes from other people that you hang around. And so maybe you need to change that just a little bit what you consume. If you are trying to be positive in life or you're trying to get forward, maybe don't watch horror movies. Maybe don't watch random things online. Maybe don't watch porn anymore. Changing what you're watching and changing who you're associating with, and then also changing how you speak and what you speak about yourself is huge. And the last thing, I just had a book recommendation. It's by Tony Robbins. It's called The Giant Within. Tony Robbins, The Giant Within. That's the book where you're going to have to take it little by little and you're going to need a notebook and you're going to want to take notes and you're going to want to have like a pen and actually apply those things right away because those things will change your life. And that book can change your life. The Breakthrough Code is a really good read because it's a story that can be related to, and you may not be in sales, but the same habits that are established and spoken about in that book can be established in your life for any area, I truly believe, and can transform your life. And so, those two books I think are very good when working with your self image and working with your mind and stuff like that, because self image comes from what you believe you can do. So that's going to impact your self image. And your self image is going to impact how successful you are in life. Percent.
Absolutely. I don't have anything else to really add to all of that. You really touched on everything there. Those are really good reads, by the way. So I
Yeah.
definitely recommend you guys tapping into those.
Yeah. And I think ultimately the most important book to build your self image is the
The
Bible.
Bible. Called it. Yep.
Because if you just read through the Bible, it's just life transforming. And there's so many books. I don't have any specific ones, but Proverbs is really good.
The
There's a lot of
Psalms,
Psalms
Proverbs.
that are really good. The New Testament, a lot of like the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, those are really good because Jesus gives principles that are just so good for anything, like any obstacle, any challenge that you have. And Proverbs is good because it gives you wisdom, especially as a young individual. So I
Awesome.
recommend reading that book if you haven't already.
Absolutely. Front to back.
Yeah. Well, this episode was really just a short episode to give you information about self-image and also applicable information that you can go apply those steps that I mentioned and read those books. And you can transform your life. Like wherever you are in your life, you can absolutely transform it with those success principles. And just always remembering that self-image is so important. You have to obviously reflect and figure out where your self-image is at, but based on how you speak to yourself, based on how you associate with other people, how you believe you're going to do in certain situations, hanging out with other people, meeting new people, how do you think that you're going to behave and what's the outcome for you? That really determines your self image. And so recommend you reflect on that. And if you feel like your self image isn't in a good spot, that's okay. But take the points that I mentioned and just apply them in an area that you think could use a little bit more work. So awesome. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Don't forget to subscribe. Share this with someone that you think this could be very valuable with.
Like,
Comment down below, like it, share it, all those different things. We're on all platforms. So make sure you follow us on Instagram.
except we're not on BBM,
I don't know what that is.
Blackberry Messenger.
Yeah, we're not on that. That's a little outdated.
We on Facebook?
Yes.
Are we?
Yes.
Interested.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your support.
Appreciate you guys.
Bye.